Not a ton of people here. We are going to use the mics. We're recording this, so that's part of it, why we're using this even in close proximity here. So some people weren't able to make it. We wanted to make that available to them so that they could watch it and get the information. So first of all, just want to say thank you for being here. We wanted an opportunity to talk with you and then give you a chance to ask some questions and just hope you get a feel for kind of where we're moving forward with the new state vision and what we want to try to do here to get our kids prepared for their future. So I'd like to start off with, you all know him, Mr. Fonestill, our counselor. Obviously he plays a huge role in everything that we've done over the years with our kids, and could not do it without him. And Mrs. Jordan, she wears a lot of hats in our building. Her official title will be Kansans Can Career Coordinator, so she does that, so she's helping out with this as well, and we're very thankful to have her back this year. So, just to give you a little bit of a brief overview of what we're going to be talking about tonight, we'll talk a little bit about the vision of the state and what that looks like. We'll introduce you to career cruising. Some of you are probably familiar with it. It is the state-approved vendor for creating individual plans of study, which is what the next point there talks about, sample IPS. IPS is short for individual plans of study. And it means just what it says, an individual plan for each kid. And a portfolio, which is what it'll be called within that career cruising. We'll talk a little bit about how you can become involved as parents and monitor what goes on and be in the loop with what's going on with your student. And then Mr. Fonestill will share some enrollment information. We'll finish up with some questions, and that'll be our evening. So, sound good? Well, the state outcomes, many of you are probably familiar with. They're about a year, well, it's been 2015 now. Our state board launched a new vision for the state of Kansas, and the slogan was that Kansas leads the world in the success of each student. Okay, and so they really had a focus on those individual students and meeting all students and the diverse needs that we have. And you can see there, one of the outcomes is individual plans of study, which we talked about, and so that's really the one that we're going to be highlighting on tonight. And so basically the idea behind that is that each student would be able to utilize their passions and their talents and be guided by the school and by their parents in a partnership and allow them to find what they want to do and put them in a great position to do what they want to do after high school and post-secondary, whether that's work, whether that's four-year traditional college, whether it's two-year junior college or anything, and put them in a position ultimately to have a great life. And that's what this is geared towards. So here's a picture of the slogan right there. As you can see it, that's kind of their logo. Okay. Career cruising, Mr. Fonestill Mrs. Jordan will talk a little bit more about that. But it's an online program aimed at helping students explore college and career options, as we talked about, and basically plan for the successful future. And that's kind of the way that they would describe their program if you look at their website. So I'll let Mrs. Jordan elaborate a little bit more.
As Mr. Weinbrenner said, that career cruising is adopted by our state and suggested that we use. It is a very powerful, powerful online tool. The neat thing about it is individualized, and stressing individualized. Basically, they get to be the Lewis and Clark of their own education and their own future. They will have their own individual login once they're in. Go ahead. This is where we've started. We've started with our 7th graders, 8th. In fact, everybody has done it. Our seniors pretty much had their plan already done. This is adopted, some of you might have known, the Kansas Career Pipeline. It's somewhat similar, only much more powerful, just due to the fact that they can house their whole portfolio. So if they start in 7th grade, I would suggest you parents, this tool, nor we will ever take the place of you guys sitting down and visiting with your own students and your own kids, helping plan their future out. But 7th grade, we're just now thinking about, we will have our award ceremonies and stuff at the end of the year. If they sit down in this and they put all of their awards in, especially as freshman year go, then when they start to build their resumes to go on to college or go right into the workforce, it's all right there for them. exactly what they have, anything they've done. And that's kind of what Mr. Fawnenstill, Mrs. Cottom, Mrs. Ryan, uh, Mrs. Baldwin, Mr. Weinbrenner, and myself have kind of talked to the kids to get them ready, and that's kind of what's happening there.
You'll notice in all these pictures here, and I could show you a bunch more that I've taken, I just posted a few on here, but Mr. Fawnenstill is in these pictures because this is what he's done. You know, so without him, you know, this wouldn't happen, but just wanted to say that because he does so much for them.
Okay, and once they're logged in, they start in with some assessments. And their assessment isn't long. It's 39 questions, and in those 39 questions, they will find out what their learning style is, whether they're audio, visual, and it goes ahead and diagrams it out for them. It also will match their skills with their career interest. So if you flip it to the next one, this is an example of a student, and just due to confidentiality, we've taken the name off, but in the test, and it's ranked in higher orders. So their highest interest was in nursery greenhouse grower and runs down to the 10th. The kids can click on that, and it gives them what the requirements are, what education would be, and then they can go in and search even deeper. Career Matchmaker, their cluster recommendations, says this person would be great in hospitality and tourism, agriculture, food, and natural resources. It shows what level of education they need as well. So some kids, they aren't going to want to put 4 years into school. They're pretty much done. So they can go through and also find a career or their thing of interest when they click on this by education level. Some of them will go ahead and go past 4 years.
Jordan, can I ask a question real quickly? How many of you have seen your son or daughter's matchmaker skills? Some of you have, not all. You should have got an email from them, because when Mrs. Cottom and I finished up, each of them went, and I'll show you in a little bit here, but each of them went and put one of their folks' email addresses in, and it would give you a password then, or help you set up a password so you could see what they've done. And you know, it's kind of interesting as we look at these, because we told the kids, some of the kids come in and they think they know what they want to do and have since they've been in first grade. And we always tell kiddos, well, just keep an open mind, look at what's there. Well, they list 40 of the top ones, and for a lot of the kids, they were digging down past that, and you could do a series of, was it about 40 questions first? And then if you didn't like that, you could go up to 100, 110, 120 questions to get some more information. So if you haven't seen that, I think that'd be one thing you might want to ask the son or daughter tonight. Hey, make sure you've tagged me on that so I can see your results. And for each of these, the neat thing about this, and Gail will show you in a minute, you just click on one of those and you can find out everything about it, what classes I should take, how many years of education I need, do I need post-high school education, what, you know, all the details are, interviews, everything that are there. And I think the kids, we went through with Mrs. Cottom starting in January with the 8th graders, and I think we used almost 2 full cycles of their guided studies. And I think most of them enjoyed that coming in. I think they enjoyed the time looking at what the potential were and looking at schools and looking at what they needed to do. So,
Oh, that was great. Okay, and here again, it just shows how you can go in and explore your careers. Some of the kids think they want to be something, they can look at it alphabetically, say if they want to be a welder, go click on W and it'll take you to welder and anything that's a W. Schools and subjects. If they love math, they can go into that area and see what, if you're strong in math, what would be a good career for that area. Also our 16 career clusters. And then as they're in there, when you look to the side, it gives your descriptions, the working conditions. Some of them might think they want to be a welder. Do they want to be a welder outside? Do they want to be a welder inside with manufacturing? Then they start down to getting into the fine details of what they want to do. Earnings. Are they happy with 30,000? Do they want 130,000? And it breaks it that way. Education. Are you willing? Do you want a certificate? Or are you gonna go 2 years? Are you gonna go into an apprenticeship? So all of this is broke down that way. Related careers, maybe you don't wanna be a welder, but there's a lot of things related to that that they could branch out of. Maybe they don't wanna be a dentist, but they might wanna be a hygienist. So there's a lot of ways to go ahead and start doing this, even though it's in their field, it might not be the first thing that comes to mind. And what's neat about this is they actually have a lot of videos of real life interviews and real life conditions. And there again, that's our kids as they're sitting down, and I will have to admit, when they're in researching, after they take their stuff and we let them go in and investigate the careers and investigate their education, it's quiet. Those kids are intense as they're looking about what their future just might be.
The financial aid piece for the incoming freshmen guys probably doesn't mean as much to them. Mrs. Cottom and I, when we went through this with them, we just shared there is a scholarship search. Our seniors right now use FastWeb and Scholly and a couple of others that they seem to like more. They looked at this, and I know the seniors kind of gave me some takes on it, and they didn't think it had anything on what we use already, but I think by next year we hope to have it all again in one package so that the kids can go to it and use it. So as we told the kiddos, not really something right now to be concerned about. You know, for a student looking to prepare themselves best, get the best grades you can, be involved in community service, branch out and see what you really want to do, do the exploration, do some job shadowing, look at all the different angles you can of it is what we tell the kiddos when you come in that freshman year. Don't close yourself off taking classes that just because my buddies are there, I want to take them. You know, get into the things that you want to. And usually when our kiddos get to that freshman level, that's where we start to see our cliques dissipate a little bit because kids start going their own direction. So I had a good discussion with the 8th graders about that as we were there. Okay, let's hit the next one real quick. You know, the only thing I tell you guys, parents, if you've had an older son or daughter, and I think you know this already, with financial aid, a reminder, and you're several years away from it, but financial aid starts in October of students' senior year. From now on, it's not something you wait and do after the first of the year. And I know looking out there, some of you have had older siblings that have gone through that. The employment piece, the only thing that I would share with you, and Mrs. Cottom did a great job of this in class with the kiddos, she went through the employment guide and showed them what a resume was, what type of letter they would have to write, interview skills. We didn't have time to do the mock interviews and all of that. Mr. Kearley does that in high school with the personal finance kids. We talked about the job offers, all of that. They had not started building a resume yet because once you get out of junior high, that's when it officially starts for what we want them to record and keep going. Now, our older kids that have used it, they didn't like the resume, I think, the way it's set here. So a lot of them just uploaded what they had and transferred it over, and I think they were happier with that.
And I think part of that too, we try to stress to our kids when it comes to resumes, they're an individual. Make your resume individual. Don't use a canned product. Make it stand out. And there again, I'm going to jump back to employment, and I know Mr. Fonenstiel touched on it. We do have job shadowing for our students, and we also have work study. Work study, we kind of get their feet wet basically. To some juniors, we count our cadet teachers as a work study. And then a lot of our seniors, if they've already been employed, which we have quite a few that are, they have to do a timesheet for me that's weekly, and their manager or whoever their supervisor is at their place of employment has to sign off on that weekly. And I really have to brag up our kids in this area. It's a super feeling when you get an outstanding comment every week on all of the students that are out. The ones that did not have jobs, we are blessed and have some employers in town that ask if we have a high school student that would be available. So that's when they learn to put their slacks on or their dress on, put their nice button down on, get your resume together, don't forget to look them in the eye, shake their hand, and be pleasant when you go in and interview. So we do have that available to reinforce what's happening here and try to give them some life skills before we let them out of this building.
We shared a lot of that with the incoming freshmen, that by the time you're a junior, if you don't think college is necessarily the route that you want to go, we've got some technical programs we can get you into. Their age requirements that you have to meet, so you can't do it at a younger age, but by junior, senior year, you can. A unique senior class that Mrs. Jordan came back to work with, 7 out of 32 of them have their CNA, and a lot of them are full-time employed already as high school seniors. So yeah, we've had a real interesting group, but it just depends group to group. Next year seniors, I'll be surprised if we have 2 that leave the building. So many of them are locked into, I'm going here, I'm going to do this. They think they're on their paths. And again, we just remind them, keep everything open. You never know, what direction you're going to go. When a lot of the alumni come back, they keep telling the kiddos that even going on to college, many of them have still changed plans even before they get there that first semester, and then more so afterwards. So, okay.
So let's talk a little bit about the portfolio. The portfolio ultimately becomes the individual plan of study that we have on file for every student. And so it's a summary of all the work that we've talked about that the kids have done, all the inventories, all the assessments get summarized in this portfolio that really describes that kid. And so I'll show you a demo here. And again, this is a demo for confidentiality. You can just see here the name. It says sample 01, grade 08. So that's the sample name there. But you can see how if a student goes in and does work, it'll name their learning style there and give them the percentage of each style that they are and talk a little bit about it. Normally a kid would have more careers that interest. This demo has 1 in mechanical engineering tech. And then it would have schools that interest. Again, you could have a lot more than 1. Kansas State University. And then it goes with the education plan and course planner. And it would go grade 9 and grade 10. And ultimately you would have grade 11 and 12 there as well. We'd have it all the way through. Post-secondary goals, they don't have any in for this student, but they would have their first choice and second choice and so on there. So it feels like it gives a pretty good snapshot of that kid. And obviously as an 8th grader now and as a 9th grader next year, nothing is set in stone for these kids. So this is a fluid type of a deal. So it's always being updated and changed as the students work with it throughout the year.
If you look at your son or daughters, you're going to see a course planner for grade 9 through 12. And those are classes that they've picked that they think they want. And again, those can be changed anytime. We were supposed to be able to take what you would see on the course planner and just shift it right over to Power School and have the students schedule. Like a lot of things, it didn't quite work that way tech-wise. So literally starting tomorrow or Thursday of this week with one of the guided studies group, they'll start coming in and we'll start uploading classes in Power School. So you might want to be asking the son or daughter, what are you looking at next year? What are you looking at taking?
Okay, so how can you be involved? If you grab your handout that I gave you and you go down to about the middle of the page, you can see there the bolded one is Parent Portal. And so what you'll do, if you haven't seen this with your son or daughter, you will ask them to invite you. And the way that you do that is, first of all, you have them log in, and it gives you 4 easy steps there. And you ask them to log in, you click on My Plan, you click Share My Plan, and then you can choose Invite Parent or Guardian. Okay, and it's really simple. I believe they put in an email address. Is that how with the parent or guardian? So you will need an email address for them to share it with you. You stick your email address in there, and then you would have access to view the kind of stuff that we were showing you. So if we go back here, you could see, like Mr. Fonso was talking about, you could see this for your son or daughter, which I think would be very beneficial, and would be, again, the summary of the work that they've done so far and that they continue to do.
I think you can even get in there and make comments. I know we had a couple of the students that had teachers as parents that did that already to them, made comments to them about this, just communicating back and forth on it. Any questions on that career cruising, guys? I told Mr. Weinbrenner this, and I don't want to date myself here, but I think I came into the counselor's office. Kevin, you might have been, I don't know if you were a senior yet or not. You graduated in 95. I think I may have came in 92 or 93. And we used career programs from Canada at that time. I took over for a gentleman named Dick Wooten, who was a very good counselor here. He was a garden plane for a while. He passed away of a heart attack early August. They needed a counselor. I was finishing my degree through Fort Hays and Emporia, and they brought me in. And so about everything I took or brought in was from Mr. Wooten and from Mr. Billings, and then what I brought from Emporia State. And, you know, we've used a lot of this type of programs over the years, but the difference now is we're forcing kids to use it. And I really appreciate Mrs. Ryan, who has the freshmen, sophomores, Mrs. Baldwin, the juniors, Mr. Kearley, who has the seniors, and then Mrs. Cottom with the 8th graders, because that's where they've always had the opportunity to do this, but like anything, I'm sure you tell your kiddos to do something, unless you are right there, a lot of times it probably doesn't get done. Am I right on that? And that's the way we are too. So, you know, we're giving it to them, but now I think we're in a sense forcefully, and I think next year the plan is seminar period once every 2 weeks or so, they will be with a teacher going through more and more of the career cruising. And I think that's the way a lot of the schools in the state are headed.
Yeah, we'll make it fit for the system we have here, but ultimately, yeah, they will have a kind of a mentor teacher that will help them and work through their individual plan and give them advice and kind of guide them.
Guys, well, just quickly on this, and you may have seen this already too, and again, for a lot of the students, I tell them if you are asking them questions and they don't know how to answer it, the easiest thing for them to do is go to the junior senior high website where Mr. Weinbrenner's picture is at. On the left-hand side is the enrollment information icon, which is 5 down, and when you click on that, you're going to get a series of documents and PDF files, and we post this every year. And for the incoming freshmen, guys, and I don't expect you to spend time reading this. There's just way too much material there. And I tell the students the same thing. I don't expect them to wade through all this. That's part of what I do when I visit with them as groups and individuals. But if you look at those documents that are there, the freshman enrollment one is probably the one most important to your son or daughter right now. Mr. Weinbrenner, go back, if you would, to that screen. I want to show them a couple of those others and just tell them what they're about before we go any further. Sophomore, juniors, don't worry about senior enrollment. I told kids, don't worry about that. Qualified admissions we'll get to in a little bit. The state lists a couple of curriculums that guarantee a student admission after high school to any school in the state of Kansas that you want to go to if you follow these curriculums. One of them is called qualified admissions. One is called scholars curriculum. We always describe it to the kids. The scholars curriculum is the best college prep curriculum you can take at Inman High School. The qualified admissions is just a step lower. It doesn't require the foreign language, requires typically one less math class and a different set of science classes, but it will allow you to get into any of the big schools in the state, and we're talking the D1s and the D2s, regardless of ACT score, class rank, you're able to get in. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not. I would think a lot of you are. To get into those schools in the state of Kansas, it's closed admissions. You either need to rank top 30 your class, which, are we at 40 8th graders, 39? So as we went through this as kiddos, I told them, well, where would you have to rank? Okay, Ms. Fonson, we'd have to be in the top 13, yes. And what if you're a real strong class, like this year's senior class with 7 valedictorians that are 4.0s? What if your class is that way going up there? Well, we might struggle being in that top 13. What if I want to go on to K-State or KU? Well, then we'll look at your test score. You have to have a 21 or higher ACT to get into those state schools. And Washburn, throw them into that list too, because they'll follow the same thing. And so a student will say in response, I don't know if I'm going to be strong enough test taking. Can I get a 21? I say, well, we want you to be there. The average Inman High School student typically will score a 22 on an ACT year in and year out. Some students that they just don't test as well. What I tell them to do, then make sure, guys, that we're following the curriculum so that you can get in. I'll use this year's seniors as an example. Had 2 seniors that one wanted to go to K-State, one wanted to go to KU. Both of them were denied 2 different times admission because they didn't rank in the top third. They did not have the high enough ACT score. And so, in essence, what we did, we made sure that they had the right curriculum, so regardless of those other 2 points, they could go wherever they wanted to in the state. And that's kind of a catch-all. The students are aware of this. I'll make you aware of too as parents. It's kind of interesting. KU's been the leader in this. KU has raised their ACT admission score to 24. And part of that, and I tell the kids, and this is just blunt honest as you can be, when our recruiter would come in rep, he'd talk about it, he said we'd have too many kids come to KU to party. And they'd come that first semester and they'd be down on, what is it, Massachusetts Street or wherever, every night partying, and they'd be going to ball games and that, and by January, they couldn't get back. And he said what they came up with as a plan, they were just going to make sure they raised the requirement enough. And I told the freshmen this, and they were smart enough to figure it out right away. I said, guys, what happens if KU's retention rate goes up the next year or two? And they hit it right away. They said, well, K-State and Wichita State are going to follow, aren't they? Well, sure, they will. So, right now, it's a 21 across the board. And KU will still let you in with a 21 as long as you have a 3.25 GPA. And so those requirements will continue to evolve, I think, as your son or daughter continues to go through there. So we want to make sure they're covered. We always put the old line schedule on there. That's only updated after Mr. Weinberger, after the new hires are made, everything is looked at. And I put that there for the students and parents to see it. So if they want to look at hours, what would work out, they certainly can. The fire science, don't worry about it. The partnering for success on the bottom, the HCTEA, those are junior and senior level classes. But I want you to know, by the time students are juniors and seniors, if they want to go into automotive tech, if they want to do welding, we've got, do we have two junior boys building being part of a group building a $350,000 home at Hutch, and they're loving it. Next year, I think we have another one that wants to go over there and do that. We've got students that are doing the auto tech. We've got students that are doing the machining. They can come right out of high school with their certificate, go to Bradbury, they can go to Krause Plow, they've got the welding, they have a little bit of everything. So there's a wide variety of options there. And even for our students, some of our kiddos come through. I don't have any 8th graders this year, but I know I had freshmen of this year, last year, tell me, Mr. Fonso, I just want to get my diploma, I'm going to go straight to the military, which, great plan. There's nothing wrong with that if that's the lifestyle that you want. If you can handle being told what to do, when to do it, where to go, that's fine. And we talked about, well, what curriculum fits best for you. And, the same thing for the student that says, Mom and Dad have a business. Mr. Fonso, I think after high school, I only need a little bit more, and then I'm going to be able to go run that business. That's fine. We want to help all of those students. And so I think you see some of these things on there kind of geared that way. The curriculum guide is a document that Mrs. Gordon puts on there for us. It is a state-driven document that tells you what every class is about. And she updates that every year as the state approves our courses. And then back to freshman enrollment real quick there. And guys, again, don't need to go through that with you other than to say we have about 5 or 6 steps we go through. And honestly, the freshmen and I are ready to step down to that last step where we're ready to go to power school and start looking at what they want. A couple of the things as you continue to scroll down there, Mr. Weinberger, if you would, keep going a little bit further, stop right there. The hutchcc.edu. Mrs. Cottom and I had the 8th graders pick one of their careers, and we asked them, name that career as a major, which, kiddos start quickly learn, well, I want to be a business major, I want to be in engineering, I want to be in the medical field, I want to be an agronomist, whatever it might be. And we had them go to the, closest college around us, of course, is Hutch. Not for any other reason than it's very, very easy for our kids to read. If they click on that link, I quickly show them where it lists all the majors at that school. They can do that for any school in the country. When they click on a major at hutchcc.edu, let's say they go to a business major, you click on it and it tells you these are the exact classes you have to have. And then they start comparing, okay, what would benefit me in high school? Because one of the things the alumni come back and tell us is you shouldn't be going into business at the next realm if you don't have calculus and accounting and those classes in high school. You shouldn't be going into welding at the next level if you don't have those classes and for everything. So we have our kids do a little exploration. 8th graders, not as much. Juniors and seniors, the juniors especially, a lot of them are already tagging professors and advisors at the next level, have for several years, asking them, I can take some college classes as a senior, what should I take? Ms. Aaron did that last year with Rockhurst and a couple of places. Which of those classes would benefit me? The Renner boy that graduated last year, Caleb, when he was looking at Montana State, and he was looking at several of the other places up in the north, he wanted to get into a mineralogy program, the engineering piece of it. And it's a good thing he did that, because if he would have taken college classes here, he wouldn't have been eligible for any scholarship money if he hadn't checked that out. And so those are the things that we tell kiddos, that they can come and ask me or Mr. Weinberger, Mr. Teacher. We can give them a guess, but we don't know. And so we got to encourage our kids. You got to be involved, and you got to look things up yourself. And you don't want to be that person that, well, you told me, and well, guys, this is partly yours, your responsibility. You've got to figure that out. So when we start looking at this, it really lays the groundwork for what we have them do as they continue to go. One of the things we share with the kiddos too, we talk about why you should have some education past high school. And Mr. Weinbrenner, if we have a student that comes in and, I'm tired of school, Mr. Weinbrenner, I'm going to drop out, I'm done. Or Mr. Fonstein, there's no reason for me to continue. I just want to go get a job and work. One of the things by law we have to cover with students is this is the difference in money, monetary, the financial piece, if you get out without a high school degree. Here is where it goes as you follow it up the ladder. And of course, everybody's different, but I always share that with the incoming freshmen, because I think it gives them the idea that college isn't for everybody, VOTEC isn't for everybody, the military isn't for everybody, but some type of education past high school is almost a necessity in this day and age. Okay, unless you're going into a family business, the majority of people are going to be working for somebody else the rest of their lives. Scroll down a little further, Mr. Weinberg. Keep on going. The prices, we talk about the prices of the colleges. Some of the kids looked up right away what's the most expensive college in the country, and I don't even remember what it was, but they had several in the 65, 70,000 range. I know some of them were looking at the Stanfords and the Notre Dames and all that, and I was telling the kids a story last year ago in the fall. I got to go see Notre Dame Navy play, which I've always been a Notre Dame fan, and I got to walk the campus for a couple of days and talk to the kids. And one of the things I kept asking the kids, well, how much does it cost to go to Notre Dame? And most of them, oh, $62,000, $65,000 a year. Well, how in the world do you pay that? Well, said they give us $30,000 to $35,000 right off the top. And then, of course, you talk to the football players or the basketball players and the programs they have, well, they find a way to get us that money. And it's just interesting. I think the kiddos finally found, I think MIT was one of the most expensive that they found in the country. But the last thing, and then I'll be quiet, guys, the freshman enrollment checklist. This is their guide to enrolling. The 3 curriculum paths that we follow are the local requirements, qualified admissions, which you heard me mention earlier, and then the Kansas Scholars Curriculum. A student that is not sure if they want to go on to school or not past high school, my comment to them is always, your best bet is to stay in the qualified admissions curriculum range, no matter what you think you want to do right now. You can always drop back a little and not take as much. You can always pick up the foreign language by the time you're a junior or senior if you have to. But if your plans change over the 4 years, you're safest in that qualified admissions. And a lot of kiddos say, no, I know I'm going to college, and a credit to you guys, a lot of you moms and dads, you need to get an education, you need to get out and experience life, you need to find what you want to do. That Kansas Scholars Curriculum will have a lot of the students that will say, I'm going to go that way. I think this year's graduating class of 32, there are 17 Scholar Curriculum completers and another 12 that I think are qualified admissions. The biggest thing we talk to the freshmen about are look past your freshman year. Line things out so that you can get to the point that by the time you're a senior, if you think you want to go to Hutch half days and get a certificate degree, we can do that for you. Look at it in such a way that if you want to take college classes by the time you're a senior, you can do that. A lot of it revolves around testing and qualifying scores, but our kids, I look at these poor kids in the testing, they've been at that since 2nd grade. They come in, I think, geez, they got to be tired of that. And by the time they get to be freshmen and sophomores, I know they're burned out. But what I try to lead them to that path down is, guys, you've done all this year. If you've given effort, you're probably going to qualify and you'll get to do whatever you want to. So, hopefully it's been down that path. The one thing I tell you, very similar to what I tell the students, on the qualified admissions, The biggest change in the last 4 to 5 years, you have to take 4 years of math if you can't score 22 or higher on your ACT math. And for a lot of our students, they're done with math by their junior year. Now, we don't necessarily like that, but we have kids that take algebra in the 8th grade, and they figure out right away, the degree area I want to go into doesn't require any more than college algebra and maybe a statistics class. You know, we'd love to see our kids stay in 4 years of science and math, but it's not purposeful for them in the degree areas they're going into. And then the last thing I'd share with you on that Kansas Scholars curriculum, the 2 years of foreign language is the biggest difference as you start looking across the comparisons there. You're locked in bio, chem, and physics, but we follow that path with the kids pretty well through. When they come in, they'll start filling out or uploading the classes they want, and then I'll sit down with each of them and say, are you sure this is what you want? Do you know the order of the electives that you want? Like a student that says, I want to be out there with Mr. Knapp. Okay, kiddo, you're going to start in what? They'll say ag science, okay? Where are you going to go after your freshman year in ag science? Some will say, well, I want to do animal science and hort because I really like to be a vet, or I see myself doing something down the road with land judging or the animal judging, whatever the case may be. Some students will say, I'm going to go right from ag science into ag welding. So, you know, we'll look at it with the electives of what fits them the best. And then the rest of that on there, I think, is just, you know, pretty much common sense information and things that, for the most part, I don't think there'd be a lot of questions over. You are required to take a fine arts credit in high school. And the students will quickly tell you that's either going to be art with Mr. Brensing for a year, band with Mr. Sherling, or the choir with Mrs. Menard. One unit is suffice. A lot of our kids stay in for 4 years. You know, a lot of our students stay the band, the choir for 4 years, or they stay the art with Mr. Brensing that way. The MMCOM, Multimedia Communications, is the tech way of saying speech, and that is still a local requirement, which we talk about those soft personal skills. I don't know how many of our alumni have come back and said, learn how to speak in front of people. Who was the last one? Megan Schroyer was in it, and she told the kids that, both of our groups. She said, you know, I took speech in high school, college speech with Hutch, and I never thought I'd use it, but I'm working in front of students now at Hunt Transport, or working in front of my peers, and I have to talk to them all the time in groups of 30 or 40. And she said it just pays off. I'm sorry I went so long.
No, thank you. What questions do you guys have? It's a lot of information, and you know, the big thing, and Mrs. Jordan touched on it, excuse me, we're fully on board with the state vision, absolutely, but these are programs, and again, you can't replace teachers and parents that are invested in their kids' lives, and that's really the big thing, is that you have those conversations. So what can you do right away when you go home tonight, or when you, in the coming weeks? Just talk to your kids. Talk to them about what they want to do, what are they thinking. Talk about the reality of, well, if that's what you want to do, what are you doing today to make that happen? And we've talked to them about that. But a lot of times kids will think, well, I'm going to do this and this and this, and you ask them what they're doing right now, and they're not doing anything. You know, and I think we're all guilty of that in some areas, but until you get down to what are you doing today to make that dream a reality, how's it really ever going to happen? So I think those are important conversations that come from parents, that come from teachers, and ultimately will lead those kids to hopefully be successful. So, yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about the online classes that you offer?
Sure. Okay. You want to start there? Yeah, well, Mrs. Jordan, but either side would be great.
I'll go first if you want to. Typically, the online classes that will be offered will come in the form of a student that is advanced and needs something that we're not offering at the time, or an hour that there's a conflict, and that we'll get them in with Mrs. Jordan. Some students will recapture credit that way, which, again, it's better. We feel it's better in the classroom with the teacher. Just simply, over many years, and I can name class valedictorians trying to take online classes and failing miserably at it because they did not have that instructor there to talk to visit with. Not that they weren't motivated, very motivated, But again, it's all personal whether they're interested in it or not. One of the things I know we get caught up in right away, and Mr. Weinberger found that out this year, we're limited what we can offer online because we have to have a highly, am I saying that right, a highly qualified teacher that we can put on the course by the state to grant the credit.
That'd be correct. And
Saying
then
that
when
wrong?
you say online, I also jump clear over to a different avenue that some of our seniors have taken online courses through colleges. And that's another whole different avenue as well, that they've got to remember when they do that. There again, if they jump into it, they think they can chew it, and they get in far enough, you better do your drops and stuff just like in regular college, or that goes with you the rest of your college career.
But Mrs. Webb, you can testify to that with Daniel. Daniel's taken probably 9 or 12 college credit hours online and just zoomed through it. It's just a matter of whether you're devoted to it or not, is what I would say.
I'd say a vast majority of our kids have the work ethic and the desire. They're very successful.
I think the math would be the toughest. We've had kiddos try to do the online math at the next level, and they've really struggled without the instructor. Kids will come in a lot and say, and of course, this always happens around test time, Mr. Fonseal, can you get me an online algebra? Can you get me an online algebra 2? Well, why? What's going on? I just can't understand the style of teaching or what they're doing. Well, you know, we kind of sit down and sort that out. You just simply have to look at it. There's different styles of instruction. And for kiddos, I have one student literally that was in today visiting with me. Mr. Fonseal, I've hit the wall. I can't go any higher in math. Even though the teacher explains it to me 4 or 5 different ways, I can't get it. And wanted to go online. And I said, well, honey, how are you going to get it online if you've got an instructor sitting right there with you and going through it all this and you can't get it? How will you figure that out yourself? So I don't know, but just frustrated. And so, you know, there's good and bad with both. We have a lot of seniors this year taking fundamentals of sociology online. Some have taken microcomputers. Some of them taken macroeconomics. Different classes that'll get some electives out of the way. So, I don't know, does that help a little bit? It really doesn't drop down below that senior level, though, unless there's a conflict. I want to say, Mr. Weinberger, we have, for example, we have one junior girl that is in real strong in ag, band, choir, and she wants to be a state scholar. So if you look at that curriculum, how in the world is she going to get everything fit in? Well, she can't because of the small school. We can't get her everything, so what we've had to do is put her online because the hours don't match. So I guess that would be one of the ways that it would drop a little lower.
Another example would be the boys that go over to HCTEA in the morning, so they're booked all morning with their career and tech ed classes. They come back here. We still want them to be able to take some electives, so we've opened it up so that they can do some of their courses online so that they still have some options for what they want to do. So certain situations like that would be examples of when online would be appropriate. It's not, and you alluded to it, it's not to get you out of the regular thing, because I agree, the face-to-face teacher is the best. It's what we want, but there are certain situations that the online is the best fit. So.
I think it's the second choice or third choice always. And like say, I have them with me. I say sometimes it's a very lonely life when they're doing that by themselves. They need the social. Some of them get their social the other way. And like say, it's the last chance to get what they need. And it works.
Okay, other questions?
I might share with you real quick, your freshman son or daughter, when they enroll for next year, they will have English 1. They do not have to take a history class next year. They can wait and do that as a sophomore. You have to take world history either freshman, sophomore year. And I tell the sophomores, or the freshmen, the advantage of waiting until your sophomore year is you get one more elective your freshman year. But you know what a lot of the kids say? They love Mr. Friesen, they love the social studies, so they just want to stay in and take it, and that's fine. But you kind of get locked down as a freshman because you've got English, world history. Let's say you take earth and space or biology, you take algebra 1 or algebra 2, and you take health and PE. All of a sudden, you've got 5 done. You only got room for 2 electives. So a student says, I want to do band and choir and ag. All of a sudden, you better make that choice to wait on the world history. So something you might want to visit with them about. Well, I know when I just polled them briefly in there, what are you going to do? And gosh, I think almost every hand went up, oh, I'm going to stay in world history right away and do that. But, I mean, it's up to them. It's whatever they want to do. Sophomore year, if you do that, your sophomore year opens up a lot more electives.
All right. Last chance. Questions?
The electives that would be available, the quickest way to show you would be to literally go to the line schedule. And if you look for a freshman coming in, Mr. Brensing has art across the board called Principles of Illustration. Yeah, just go to that line schedule. Just literally teacher by teacher. Mrs. Baldwin would offer the media tech, which is what we use the green screen for, what she does at the state fair, the interviewing. Well, what these guys are doing up here tonight.
Peyton and Jackson are up there filming this so that we can show it, so that they're, one of their assignments for Media Tech is what they're doing tonight. So.
Now, she also does the yearbook, which again, it's a different name, a technical name at the end, but we have some freshmen I know coming in this year that would like to do yearbook with her. Mr. Brensing offers the Principles of Illustration straight across the board. Now, we don't necessarily like to do that, but his classes are so popular, 5th and 6th hour, he takes some of the students in there with the junior high, and they're off working at different tables because some of them just can't get enough, and they're trying to build portfolios to take on to college with them. Mr. Kearley offers personal finance, governance apps in the last 2 hours. Most of the time, our kids wait to take that junior and senior year. And, and I don't say this to downgrade myself or any of us here, but one of the things that I just hate that's happened over the years, we've lost our business program. And we have a lot of kids come through here that, Mr. Font said, what do I do for business? Well, the best advice I can give them and have given them for years is stay in math all the way through, get up into calculus if you can, because you're going to have calculus. If you go business administration, you're going to have calculus in college first semester, and then personal finance. And if you can handle accounting online, you need to do it online. But like many small schools around, when the budgets are cut, you got to cut programs, and that is one that we lost. Mr. Kearley, though, the personal finance, he does a lot of neat things in there that the kids really enjoy. We sat in on a lot of the mock interviews this year with the kiddos, and I wished all of our kids could go through that. Mr. Ediger, no electives. Mr. Friesen, no electives. Mrs. Glidewell, Spanish, if you want to consider it an elective. Scholars curriculum, you've got to take that. Move on down to Mr. Knapp. Anything in the ag area is going to be an elective. A freshman, though, is going to have to probably take an ag science unless they have enough welding experience to get in. Mrs. Menard in the choir. Scroll on down a little further if we can. What else do we have there? Coach Sawyer has just one fitness class. Mr. Sprunger has the woods. And that's pretty well where we're at. When the students started to enroll and do their 4-year plans, on the whiteboard in there, I put all of the electives in order from freshman year on down so they could look and kind of pick as to what they wanted. And when you look at their 4-year plans, they're not going to be accurate. They get lost in that, and they will. You can't be 100% accurate with it. Each year it'll change a little bit. The speech credit is offered online to our seniors, but like this year, there are 32 seniors, 28 of them took public speaking through JUCO. Online, no, that's with a teacher. That's with a college prof.
They send an instructor over to our building. For
our college classes, if you look at HCC, first semester we offer public speaking and human relations and Comp 1 with instructors that come to our campus. Second semester, we offer both SOC and college algebra, psych, and Comp 2. And those are all professor-driven classes, which, it's great to have the profs on campus. our kids come through thinking, oh, college is going to be like this, or we're going to do this project, or we're going to do this group work, or whatever. And they get into these college classes and they find out, not quite that way. It's lecture. I listen to them. They tell me what's going on. I have 3 or 4 tests. I write a paper. And ultimately, I hate to say it, but that's what our alumni still come back and tell us that they're doing. It's great to, Hutch JUCO is so good to our community and our kids in this.
They give a discounted rate for our kids that take those courses too when they come here.
Right.
So they don't pay the full, the full college price, so they're getting it at a discount.
Here's a story for you. Got a senior girl that's, and Bethany has given the, I can't remember the exact, tradition scholarship. Am I saying that right? For
If you're a
McPherson
McPherson
County
County
and Saline
resident.
County. Got a senior girl that's trying to decide, do I go to Hutch JUCO? I can be an ambassador there. I can go to school there free for 2 years. When I go over there in September, Mr. Fonsa, they're going to hand me a check for probably $2,000. I'm going to make money going to school. Or do I go to Bethany and pay $9,000, $10,000 room and board, get the tuition paid for the next 4 years? Tough decision, huh? If you go strictly on finances, it's not. But if you look at, what do you want to be around? What do you want to be part of? What, those things that you've got to decide. So her and the parents, have been weighing those issues out. But those are the things your kiddos are headed towards over the 3-4 years in high school. That's why whenever we talk about testing, I always tell kiddos, there's, at the end of the testing, there's a payoff for you if you keep trying. And that payoff is extremely good opportunities. A lot of doors open.
Okay, well, thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate your time and patience. And again, talk to your kids and just know that we are talking to them as well. We're invested in all of them, and we are doing whatever we can to help them. So, yeah.
Like, just because I know a lot of schools are starting to look at just curious, like, plans of what you guys have of bringing all of us together, staff, parents, and students together to find out their future possibilities that are going on there. I know we can talk to them at home, you guys can talk to them at school. The opportunities we have to
I think you look at something like tonight, I think it starts with something like this, where we just start to have conversations, about how, and the key word that I think of is a partnership, because that's really what it is. It's a partnership between us. We all have the same goal in mind, is to see your son or daughter be successful. I think the same thing about my kids, and so it takes all of us working together to do that, and I don't know that I have specifics to answer your question exactly what we'll do, but I think that's the word I would use, would be partnership, and that's kind of along the lines that I'm thinking for my vision, is that it would be that we will work together towards their success. So.
So like, for example, if we see an opportunity, we just like call it, we and the child together and.
I'm always open to,
possible learning
sure,
opportunities
sure.
for them? Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm always open to visiting and meeting with anybody.
I think, Mr.
talking.
Weinbrenner, you talked too about even parent-teacher conferences, that would be the opportunity, because that's what some schools have done. Ours probably doesn't fit as much because we have such good turnout. And to be quite honest, we just have very good parents that show up because they care about their kids. We're not one of those districts with 20% turnout. We're usually, 70, 75% turnout. But I think that's one of those places where, if we can get this implemented correctly, you will have a staff member that will have your son or daughter and follow them through for the 4 years and be able to help them be on track. And not just that person, that teacher, but you guys, and then ultimately myself, Mr. Weinbrenner, Ms. Jordan, a number of us involved.
And Mr. Fonan still hit on what I was going to say exactly on our parent-teacher conference. As our state is in a big change, we're still very conventional, but we're opening more doors for every student and for every person. The word parent-teacher conference anymore sounds a little abrasive, and it's great, but we've even discussed things like, is it a career planning? Do we look at it differently? It's the same thing. You talk the topics, it's still there, and we meet as a group. So you hit exactly what.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here, and you're dismissed.